Week 1 of the NFL is over. Week 2 is here. So in today's video, I'm going to be discussing or picking who I think wins each game. So I'll go through each game. I'll give a little spiel on what I think is going to happen, what I like about each team, and I'll pick my winners. I'll be looking at and talking about the spreads just for like a reference on how the game outcome looks. But I'm not actually picking spreads, I'm picking just straight up winners. So, you know the spiel. If you like any of it, like the video. Let's get into it. So, game 1, Thursday night game. Bills at Dolphins. So, as of right now, when I'm recording this Wednesday night, Mostert is out. A-Chain is questionable. And at first it didn't look like A-Chain was going to play. Now it looks like it truly is like a game time decision. So if A-Chain doesn't play, I'd 100% pick the Bills. Now I think the Dolphins have a system where any running back can kind of thrive, similar to like a 49ers outlook. But A-Chain is definitely the most talented back they got. And this Bills team is very good. So having an A-Chain on their team is important. I don't really think we know what this Bills team is capable of. That Arizona game was very weird. But at the same time, the Dolphins looked pretty sketchy, and they probably should have lost their game anyways. So I look at this game. I think the Bills have the better quarterback. Dolphins have the better weapons. Defenses are both kind of questionable, but I would lean towards the Bills. I am really unsure on this Dolphins' offensive line too. I think it's a big question mark. So even though the game is in Miami and it's supposed to be pretty hot there on Sunday or on Thursday, but it'll be cooling off because it'll be at night, I think the Bills are able to go into Miami and get a win. Our Sunday games start off with the Raiders at Ravens. This is the biggest spread of the weekend at 9.5. So the Ravens should dominate this game. And to be honest, I think they will. Now, this Raiders team, I don't like this Raiders team, but they are kind of feisty. And I feel like the past 5 years, the Raiders have been really good at upsetting teams. I remember they beat the Ravens actually I think it was in Baltimore, a couple years ago when Ravens were coming off a great year. They've beaten the Chiefs. They beat the Steelers. I think the year after the Steelers went 11-5. But so maybe if it was like a different week, I'd pick the Raiders to upset the Ravens. But there's no way the Ravens win or lose both their first 2 games. Ravens beat the Raiders pretty handily. We have the Chargers and Panthers, and Chargers are 6.5-point favorites. I am not a fan of this Chargers team. I don't think they're very good. I think they have major questions on defense, and obviously they have questions on offense besides their running game. But this Panthers team is terrible. Just the worst. So the Chargers go to Carolina and get the win. Next, we have the Saints going to Dallas to play the Cowboys. Cowboys are 6.5-point favorites, so they should win pretty easily. I think the first half will be kind of close. I think the Saints team has some random good players along their starting lineup, but they also have some major holes too. They're not filled with solid players, that's for sure. And this Cowboys team also has some red flags, but I think they can beat the Saints, especially at home. Carr has looked good recently, but let's not look at last weekend as like a norm for him. They played the Panthers. This Cowboys defense will be much better. I also think Dak will be able to throw really well on the Saints. So Cowboys win at home. Then we have the Buccaneers going to Detroit to play the Lions. This is the highest over-under on the weekend, and I think it'll for sure be the highest scoring game. The Lions offense is obviously extremely good. They have weapons all over the field, especially if Jameson Williams, someone who has never looked great, can really pan off. Amon-Ra will bounce back. The backfield is great. The offensive line is dominant. And their run defense is great too. So I think the Buccaneers will be able to throw a decent amount on the Lions. They have a good receiving core. Baker's solid. But I think Lions just put up way too many points in this game, and they get the win at home. Indianapolis versus the Packers. This Would have been a really fun game if Jordan Love didn't get injured, but obviously he's out. I don't think he's actually officially declared out, but it's like a less than 1% chance he plays. So Malik Willis is the quarterback there, and maybe Matt LaFleur can get super creative with him. He can get him running around, but I think without maybe if they had 2 weeks to prepare for a game, if there was a bye week, they could get a win away. I don't think the Packers offense will be enough. I do think this Colts team will have some highs and flows this year, or highs and lows, because AR is going to be inconsistent as a thrower. He made some huge plays last weekend, but he also only completed 9 passes. That's not something you can consistently do while putting up a lot of points. But I think they'll get better each week. It's been a while since he played an NFL game, so you got to give him some slack. So I think the Colts have enough to overcome a Malik Willis offense and win in Green Bay. Then we have the Browns at Jaguars. This game is going to be really messy, I think. The Browns offense looked terrible last week, but Dallas does have a very good defense, and I think they will look better, even though they won't look great because Watson is just not a good quarterback. The Jaguars kind of gave that game away. They definitely should have won it, but they just couldn't seal the game. And I think this is a weird game where it'll be very messy, and I think the Browns' defense will actually overcome this game, and the Browns do upset the Jaguars in Jacksonville. It's not a huge upset. It's only a 3.5 point favorites, but I think both offenses look inconsistent. I think the Browns defense looks good, Jaguars looks below average, and I think that would be the difference maker. Browns win in an ugly game. Then you have the 49ers at Vikings. This one isn't something that needs to be overthought. Even without Christian McCaffrey, the 49ers offense looked incredible, and that was against a great defense. Now they play a terrible defense in the Vikings. Sam Darnold looked great last weekend, but again, he was playing the Giants, so we can't really put too much into it. I think the 49ers go in there, just run the ball. They have some of the best weapons in the league. They get creative. They put up a ton of points on the Vikings. Jefferson has a tough game. Darnold has a tough game. Jones has a tough game because of this 49ers defense is also going to wreak havoc. 49ers win. Seahawks at Patriots are next, and to me, this Patriots team is not good. I don't want to say they got lucky versus the Bengals, but the Bengals always start off really bad. And the Patriots defense is good. So I don't like the team as a whole, but their defense is good. Now the Seahawks team, I think, is pretty average across the board. Geno's average. Their receiving core has some good players, but they also have some downfalls. Their defense, not great. Offensive line, not great. So I think the Seahawks are the better team. They have to travel cross country to New England. New England's going to be hyped and motivated after their week 1 win. So the Patriots win their second game, and they beat the Seahawks in New England. Then we have the Jets at Titans. This game is going to be super defensive. I think the Titans have a very underrated defense this year. A lot better than I thought it was going to be. And the Jets obviously have a great defense. Now both offenses have some hope on talent-wise, but we haven't really seen them put it together this year. The Titans offense did not look very good versus the Bears. The fact that they lost that game is incredible. And the Jets offense didn't look terrible, but they definitely didn't look good. But they were playing the 49ers defense, and it was Rodgers' first game back in so long. So I think he looks better each week. I think each week they'll also figure out how to get Garrett Wilson involved more efficiently. And I think the Titans offense will struggle more than the Jets offense will. So I have the Jets winning in Tennessee. Then we have our crapshoot game of the week. That's the Giants at Commanders. I know the Commanders have some fun players on the team. Daniels, his rushing looked great. His throwing did not, though. And obviously the Giants offense is abysmal. Both defenses are also abysmal. So I usually have these teams splitting. So it's easy to just go the home team and win. But to be honest, while this Giants defense is really bad, their front is actually kind of good. So I think guys like Brian Burns, Lawrence, Thibodeau, they get after Daniels enough. This Washington offensive line is not good. I think Daniels struggles more this week because of the pressure, and we know his throwing is, not great yet. So I think the Giants' defense, while it'll still be bad, the Commanders will still put up points. Daniels struggles more, turns the ball over more. Giants, I think they can actually score in this Commanders offense. I think Neighbors could have a huge weekend. I think Robinson could get some stuff. If there's any game where Daniels looks like even a below average quarterback, just not a shit quarterback, it'll be this game. Giants actually beat the Commanders in Washington. Then we have the Rams at Cardinals. This is one of my favorite games of the weekend. Cardinals offense looked kind of hit or miss. Obviously, everyone knows like the big play that they could have won the game or potentially won the game with Marvin Harrison wide up and down the field. But in reality, they have a good quarterback. They have some good weapons. I think the Cardinals offense each week will get better and better. This Ram offense, they lost Puka, which will definitely hurt, but Kupp looked like his Triple Crown winning self. And this is one of those teams that when one guy goes down, they'll bring out a random guy and he'll just dominate. So I think the Rams offense is a little too powerful. The Cardinals are actually favorited by 1.5. So I think this is an upset that I think is a great value if you're betting on these. I think the Rams go to Arizona, not that far of a flight. Matthew Stafford just shows why he's still one of the better QBs in the league when it comes to just winning football games. Rams beat Cardinals. Then you have the Bengals at Chiefs. This will be one of the closer games that isn't projected to be close. The Bengals always play the Chiefs well. Now, we don't really know what's the deal with these wide receivers. Chase played, but Higgins was out. Is he going to be back? Is Chase going to be balling like normal Chase? And is Joe Burrow going to be balling? But the problem is, I think this Bengals defense and the offensive line isn't good enough to deal with the Chiefs. The Chiefs just aren't this high-powered, throw it over the field, finesse team anymore. They have a superstar-led defense, and they have a great rushing game, good offensive line, along with the weapons now. So the Chiefs just overwhelmed the Bengals. Chiefs win at home. Then we have the Steelers at Broncos. Mike Tomlin is 24-6. Yeah, 24-6 against rookie quarterbacks. And while I don't think it's guaranteed, the Steelers do play up or down versus the competition a lot since the Big Ben era. I think this Broncos team is just straight up terrible. I don't think they have anyone on offense. They only have a couple guys on defense. I think they completely overwhelmed Bo Nix. He did not play well last weekend. I think the Steelers go into Denver, add to that record. Bo Nix just turnover city. Steelers win at Broncos. Then the last game on Sunday, we have the Bears at Texans. Caleb looked really bad last weekend. I do think the Titans' defense is really good, though, like I said earlier. I think the Bears will be better offensively, but Keenan Allen's beat up, Rome Odunze's beat up. I think they're both considered week to week, but we don't really know. I think the Texans win this pretty easily, but the Bears make it close enough. Then the last matchup on Monday is Falcons at Eagles. The Eagles won last week, but they looked really sloppy. But I do think Hurts will clean it up some with his passing, with his rushing. I think this Eagles secondary will have a better time. They were getting torched out there by Green Bay. I think the field was part of it, but I think just the fact that the Falcons really only have one receiver, Drake London, and a tight end who's above average, Kyle Pitts. I think the Eagles' defense will look a lot better versus this Falcons offense. And I think their defensive line and pass rush will eat versus the Falcons, like the Steelers did last week. So the Eagles beat the Falcons. So those are my predictions for NFL Week 2. So let me know what you think in the comments. Which games did I get wrong? Which games are guarantees?